Are you ready for an extreme makeover of the mind? With the producer and host of A Better You podcast, the transformational coach whose assignment is to challenge people to change, grow, and evolve into the individuals they were created to be. Here is Dr. Anthony McFarland, providing you with practical tools and wisdom for everyday life challenges for you to win in life, relationships, and finances.
Welcome to A Better You podcast. I'm Anthony McFarland. It's a blessing to be with you again. As you know, my assignment is to challenge you to change, grow, evolve, and become the best individual that God created you to be.
Hey guys, I'm so glad you're here with me on the ABU network. Thank you for being here. I have a huge favor to ask you before we jump into this next episode. It will make me really happy if you subscribe and share this podcast with someone else you know and love. It's my goal to have at least 50% of the people that watch this channel be subscribers. It really helps us bring you amazing content. Just take a second, please, and click like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone you know and love. Thank you. All right, let's go.
And I believe when you know who you are, whose you are, your what, your why, let me share something with you. Life gets easier. Today on the podcast, I have a very special guest with me, Miss Nakeya Fields, who is a licensed clinical social worker and chair of the Pasadena-based Black Mental Health Task Force. Nakeya is an alumna of the University of Southern California, where she received a BA in communication, a master's in social work. She's a licensed board certified behavioral science specialist in clinical social work in the state of California. She has been featured in the Los Angeles Times. Nakeya Fields has been so passionate about mental health. I've known her for a few years now, and I'm telling you, her passion, her heart to help people, families is amazing, as well as one of the things that I love that she talks about, seeing how the stresses that come with being Black, racial injustice, financial strain, social isolation can leave people feeling hopeless and push some into substance abuse. Nakeya is the best-selling author of Mental Health Entrepreneur, Gain Freedom, and Escape the 9-to-5 Grind. I love it. How to Treat Mental Illness and Monetize Your Expertise, which was released in April of 2018. Her second book, The Manifest It Action Planner and Accountability Tool for the Power, will be available soon. And I believe that it is available. But with that being said, with no further ado, I'd like to bring to platform Miss Nakeya Fields. Nakeya, hello, how are you?
I'm amazing. You?
Awesome. It's so good to see you. And I want to first thank you so much for joining me on the ABU podcast. Again, I said it already in the introduction. I've watched you, the work that you do in the community statewide, and your passion to really help families was one of the reasons why I was able to really connect with you. And you just have a wonderful spirit. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Of course. It's an honor and a pleasure. You know, I see you out there stomping and doing the work and helping the people and being of service in the way that we need to be fulfilled. And I always saw a partner in you. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So as you know, my focus this month on the podcast is dealing with mental health, and specifically, everybody deals with it across the board: white, yellow, brown, red, Black, green, whatever color you are, whoever you are, what you choose to call yourself. Everybody deals with mental health in one way or another. Let's talk about the greatest challenge that your office faces when it comes to mental health in the community at large. What's been some of the greatest challenges that you've had to deal with, your associates have had to deal with, especially with the task force that you're a part of?
Yeah, you know, when I went to college, I didn't originally plan to be a mental health professional. I thought I was going to be a journalist, or a writer, which I
Okay.
am. I'm a writer at this point in my life. But I think when I got to like later in my life, I'm a very empathetic person, and I started to look around at people and really notice that people weren't living.
Mhm.
So I was a young person getting to travel the world because of where I'd sort of landed by all the blessings that the universe has given me. So like in my early 20s, I was just traveling all around the nation as a part of my work. And I was getting to see people through parties. I was doing special events, and I
Okay.
sort of like, so get me, right? I'm seeing people have fun.
Right.
But this dynamic of people having fun by drinking at night, getting
Mm.
dressed up and having these parties. But then everybody's going back to their like 9 to 5, very aggressive, got to make this money, got to have this car, got to have this house, got to have this for my child. There's what do the Joneses have? Like
Right.
it's always there, but the internal looking at self was more about the physical. Like the
Yes.
internal looking at self was about, okay, I'm pretty, people like me, but that's not really internal. That's still external of other people's
Right.
perceptions of you. And I think I really got a front hand view of it by traveling and seeing that it happens everywhere, like in multiple states.
Yeah.
And then I started traveling internationally just for fun. This is something that I truly enjoyed doing as a release because I was a social worker out there in the world, right? So as I started getting older, there were pieces of me that my career changed because I was like, well, maybe this entertainment isn't for me. People, it seems very fun, but people seem very tight. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of a fluid. Like, I don't know about this tightness, so
Right.
I don't know about that's for me. And then things happened in the world, and I ended up back in graduate school. And the one thing I thought about was like, if I'm going to go to graduate school, what would I study? And I thought, I remember when I was in school, nobody told me that I could go to college. Like, because nobody in my family had gone to college. Am in my senior year, and I hadn't applied for anything. I hadn't done anything, and my friends were talking about it. And I remember thinking, what are they talking about? And listening. So I always say that I'm a heck of an ear hustler, and
Okay.
because like I hear, but I'm not listening for gossip. I'm listening
Right.
for things that might take care of me because I'm the oldest child, the oldest grandchild. My mom was a teen mom. So
Okay.
I have had to learn, like most of my life, how to listen to other people, to
Mm.
learn how I'm supposed to do something because I'm not learning it from anybody else.
Yes.
And so that skill set traveled with me throughout this career, right? So as I'm going to school and I'm thinking about what I wanted to do, I ended up here in my life through the grace of God by hearing somebody talk about maybe they're going to go to college. And I went into my school counselor and I was like, hello, can I do that? And they were like, oh, yeah, here's some options. They never would have called me in. So at that point, I just had some personal advocacy that told me maybe my graduate program should be a school counselor. So
Mm.
that's how it all started. I went in and I got my graduate degree. Fast forward, I still don't like working for people or no restrictions. I still like fluidity. So that's where entrepreneurship came in. I also
Okay.
like to advocate for people. People need
Yes.
advocacy in the world of mental health. So this
Yes.
whole story about sort of how I landed in here in relationship to the challenges to outreaching to the community about mental health is my own personal story, because my own personal story is my story and it's the only one I can tell. And I was only witness to everybody else's stories that I know about through a very confidential process through which I'm hearing it, but I'm
Yes.
impacted by it.
Yes.
Right. So the more my career expanded, I'm hearing more and more people's stories. So first it was about me. Oh, I wish somebody would have told me that I could be a school counselor. I'm going to go on and be a better school counselor than that school counselor. And so it was very limited in the view. But then you have to add in, I have all this traveling around that I have in my mind now, right? I'm an avid reader. Everything I
Right.
read is about the world. So now I've seen people throughout the world. I've read things about the world. And now I'm in people's lives telling me about their worlds through their stories. I'm
Yes.
in schools listening at IEPs about what kids don't get to have this service or needs this, but it's too late. This kid's like 12 now. How come
Right.
nobody ever noticed that this kid had ADHD or autism or needed a regional center referral? That's because nobody was caring about these children earlier. So I started to get more and more passionate. The more stories, the more gaps in care that I saw. And
Yes.
it felt like me as just a therapist wasn't going to solve nothing.
Mm.
So like one
Okay.
person, one client, I could only maybe take on a caseload of 20 people. And that's a big caseload.
And that's a big case. Yeah, that's a big caseload. Yes, that's a big caseload.
That's a big caseload. So mental health challenges are there are not enough providers and there's not enough empathy and compassion and caring and connection to other people. There's connection to self and what you want from other people, but not connection to self and knowing that a part of being a good person is being good to other people, and then the world is good to you.
That's
And that's
good.
not connected. And that's mental health. And a lot of people, even the healthcare system, mental health is treated as a carve out. It's not even a part of healthcare. You
Mm.
have to have a special thing to go
Right.
get mental health. And why? That is ridiculous, because mental health is the baseline, the foundation of physical health. If you cannot
Yes.
make a healthy choice and not drink that
Come
alcohol
on.
every single night, you don't go to
Yes.
sleep that night, you don't set boundaries for yourself or other people or your relationships, that's all mental health. I could keep going. I'm like, because mental health is everything. It's mindset. And if you can't be healthy there, life is suffering, a challenge.
You know, I love what you're sharing because, again, you know, as I always say, if there's not a better me, there can't be a healthier me. And if
Mhm.
there's not a better me and a better you, then there's not a healthy us. And that's why the world is in the state that it's in. And everybody needs access to mental health care, just like they need access to physical health care. Please share with the audience your views on how stigma affects Black Americans as you're in the community, you're doing the work. There's so many narratives and views of Black people who are subject to racism, discrimination, and inequity. I don't think people at large understand how these views can significantly affect a person's mental health, and being treated or perceived as less than, or maybe to the other extreme, as a Black man, as a threat because of the color of your skin, can be stressful within itself and even traumatizing. Can you share with me your view on how stigmatism kind of affects Black Americans?
Yeah, I mean, the stigma about acting intelligent is a stigma that might show up in the Black community. You talk white, you act white, you want to be white
Ah,
because you read or because you go to school, you schoolboy. Mental health has its own stigma in that it's kind of there. Ooh, you taking care of yourself? You know, this is internalized racism. You shouldn't take care of yourself, right? You shouldn't be educated. Don't leave that field. Don't learn to read. This is intentional. This is our history. And if we stay ignorant to our history, then we stay ignorant to the possibilities. And
or
that's
or
the whole
or,
point.
or allow our oppressors to keep us in that box.
Yeah. And at this point, who are our oppressors? So there is a system that was put in place to keep us in a certain area, and we know that.
There we go. Right.
And there is no way to, it's the truth. It's a reality. The data says it. And the
Yes.
communities that are impacted the most are the Black community. Oftentimes when I'm out there advocating for Black mental health, I'm like, we're the ones on fire. Sure, you could keep saying, what about the Latinos? What about the Native Americans? What about this? Well, Native Americans, they are suffering, and Latinos are suffering in certain ways because the system oppresses like a social class in addition
Right.
to racial classes. So there is suffering. And there are people who are gluttonous with everything and with so much money's around there. But it's so extreme, the difference between the two, because the difference between the two is the education, the awareness of the difference. If
That's
you
good.
keep people ignorant of the difference and the awareness of it, so if
Okay.
you keep people ignorant of the difference, then of course they don't try to change the difference or make it
Right.
more equitable. So I think in mental health, the reason why communities of color, especially the Black community, really don't access, I think, mental health care is there's a lack of trust in healthcare in the first place. And mental health care is already difficult to access. So if they're already mistrustful of their primary care doctor, thinking that they're racist or that they might kill them, because these are real narratives that they might
Yes.
be faulty thoughts, because not all doctors want to kill us, but
Right.
there is real
Right.
historical things that some doctors do. You know, there are people actually out there putting the wrong measurement of something, smothering people, elderly people in their sleep. There are people doing very atrocious things in the world because of their mental illness. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with our ethnicity and our cultural
Mm.
background. So
Okay.
what that does for the Black community is toxic stress. That is what racism is doing to our bodies. We just
Mm.
can't even live in this world, have our children go to school, have our children walk to school, have our children go to a liquor store, have our children buy a pack of cigarettes, have our children maybe have a faulty $20 bill, but maybe not, right? But still die for it. And this is toxic stress on mothers and fathers and grandparents and cousins,
Yes.
because we love our family. That's how we connect as a culture. We connect to each other in our local units, you know,
Right.
but
Right.
when that unit is damaged, or somebody that looks like us on the news dies doing something we could be doing, that
Right.
stresses us out. That's mental illness, to always have to be aware and protective and defensive, and don't wear this color, and don't make eye contact, and don't be too aggressive with this person, and don't go to the pool, and don't use your key at your apartment in your elevator. Like, do you see where I'm going with this? Like,
Yes. That's very
very
good.
stressful on the body, taking its toll on the Black community. But I get it. When I went to have my son, I had a very traumatic birth and a very unfortunate experience where I was not believed that I was actually going into early labor.
Mhm.
And then actually, when my son was coming out, I had all these students in the room against my will. Like, I didn't agree to be a class. And
Wow.
it was very overwhelming for me, because I was like, not flatlining, but I was going through a medical emergency. So I couldn't even tell them I didn't want them in there, but my legs were open. So it was like, my baby was coming out. Is my baby alive? Who are
Right.
all you people? Where is my family? And this felt like healthcare trauma. And I think that was the moment when I shifted from being a therapist, like out there just doing work, to being, I'm gonna keep fighting for Black children and for Black pregnant women, and for anybody that I can to
You
not,
became an advocate
yes, to not
based on your
experience
experience.
anything. Yes, I just don't want it for people. I don't want it for children. I see
Right.
my little son going to school and being pushed by teachers, ignored, not addressed, not acknowledged. I'm a
Mm.
school counselor. I started looking closer at other kids in the schools, because I'm there. I'm a school
Right.
counselor. I'm in the playroom. So now I'm not even just looking like the therapist. I'm looking like, let me watch. And I see it over and over,
Yes.
over. And the data says it's happening too. If you look at any preschool studies of who they think is the threat in a preschool, like ask a preschool teacher, there was a
Yep.
study a couple years ago. It's a little Black boy, a little Black girl. And in here don't even know what's going on. We playing with Play-Doh, but we the threat already. So
Right.
this is hard
Yeah, I've
on.
watched those studies. Yes.
Yes, there's study after study after study after study. And then the LA Times article, I heard you mention that just came out last month, Mental Health Awareness Month. And that article was about the tragedy of despair. And it was based on a study. I don't know what university it was, but a couple of years ago, they said that white men during the pandemic, and because of the opioid use that were going up, and
Right.
people, there was a higher rate of like suicides in that community
Yes.
because of how like money was impacted during that period. And they called it a tragedy of despair, and that the people most at risk were for white men.
Wow.
And so that's why they interviewed me for the article, to be like, what do you think about this? And I just started laughing, because I was like, do you understand the tragedy of despair, to assign that to white men because they lose some money, but not to prescribe it to the Black community that's been oppressed for 400 plus years, physically, emotionally, familially, uh,
Yes.
physically, property basically,
Right.
stealing stuff, everything, our
Redlining. Yeah.
children,
Everything.
I
Yeah.
mean, everything, but we're not the most predisposed for despair. We
Yeah.
are. Despair means hopelessness. It means
Mm.
giving up. Who gives up more than people who have no choice but to suffer just to go to preschool, and just to go to
Wow.
walk to school. You know, that is despair. And the only way out of it is resilience. And that's what we have. We have the superpower
Yes.
of resilience. And mental health is the way to access it. Mental mindset, a practice of taking care of yourself, believing yourself, moving yourself out of situations that are not for you, being
Yes.
aware when it's time to be safe and with your body. But if you ain't even know when you're safe in your body in your normal own home, how you gonna know out in the world and thrive in the world? So that's my mission. Like, I'm just trying to get people to thrive. I'm aiming first at Black people. But Black people don't understand, I think, because there's trauma, how to start. Because it's supposed to be the healthcare system. So what we've done with the Black Mental Health Task Force is come play with us. We think being healing and healing trauma is being playful, because that means you're able to be present and joyful and notice how your body feels. Notice how your brain feels. Notice how this person right next to you make you feel. Don't just get high with them and numb yourself out. Notice
Right.
how they make you feel. Don't just drink with them and numb yourself out. Notice how they make you feel. They make you feel good, keep them. If they make you feel bad, get out of here. This is your world. This is your reality.
You're saying it
Run it.
starts with social, to change the narrative, it starts with social interaction,
It starts with
a
you.
controlled environment, with that
It starts
individual being open to connect on a different playing ground, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm saying is healthcare access requires trust. Trust in the doctor, trust in what they recommending to you. Because you could go see a doctor and they could recommend anything, and you can go home and throw that little prescription away and never take it, never follow it. And that's what happens a lot in mental
That
health.
happens a lot.
In mental health care and physical health care. I know, like, for example, I'll use my dad. I'm gonna put him on blast. Dad, you on a podcast? But I don't know the last time he ever went to the doctor. I mean, I actually have tried, because we have doctors on our team. I was like, I'm rolling out on my doctor. We coming tomorrow. And he like, don't let us in. Like, or
Oh, wow.
and I'm like, but we all are, so this is my real experience. Like,
Yes.
I see that thing on your arm. I don't know what that is. I want you to see a doctor because I love you. I'm
Right.
rolling through resources and you still won't take this? So that's deep.
That brings me to this question. When someone has a mental health condition, even physical health condition, we know that support from family can make a big difference. However, and I love you sharing the scenario with your dad, it may be hard for us as family members to know what approach is best. And so it's particularly difficult to balance showing support with caring for our own health and encouraging others to be responsible for their actions and how they do self-care. What are some of the steps? Let's switch this just a little bit, and we can talk about just the everyday individual dealing with a family member, but what are some of the steps? Because I know you deal with parents a lot, families a lot. Parents can take to help their kids dealing with mental health issues.
I think parenting is I think it's the biggest transition we ever go through in life. Like, most of it is developmental, right? We're a baby, we're infant, we're a toddler, we're in different school systems, elementary, middle. If we go to college, do we have like this vocational level that we're going through, and everybody's alongside us doing the same thing. But they might have chose a different trade. It might be a different thing that they land on, but everybody kind of knows what the road looks like. We don't know what the road looks like with parenting at all,
Right.
because
Right.
it's different for everybody.
For
Just like
everybody.
everybody's individual journey is different, but it's parallel. At least you could look over and be like, oh, I see Johnny's a few steps ahead of me and he got this, this, and this. I could go get that too. Or I could look over here and see this and I could go get that. But with parenting, it's really hard to do that because every child is different. When you're parenting a child, there might be a developmental delay, a cognitive delay. There might be, something like that is a food issue. Like, my child
Yeah.
is allergic to something. Or I have a couple of clients who, like, kids just won't stop crying the whole time because they have like a colic, or there's a sleep issue. And sometimes we don't even know what the issue is, because a lot of times I'm a child therapist primarily when I was practicing. So I'm a registered play therapist. My focus is early childhood development, and then it moved into perinatal mental health with pregnant and parenting women. So I have a lot of experience with understanding and helping the families assess what might be affecting this behavior that's affecting the parents. Because I'll tell you the truth, most parents bring children in after they're affected. So
Right.
parents bring their children in after they're affected. So that parent is coming in. My kid won't sleep. She crying all night. It's hard for me to go to work. I'm miserable. Our relationship is suffering. He won't help me watch her. So here I am assessing. You guys need couples. Go get couples therapy and go get some co-parenting education and do that.
Mhm.
This child, I don't think there's a problem with the child. The child's too young. Something going on with routine or health. Have you going to the doctor? The doctor said, bring them to you. So that's how usually they go to the doctor, and doctor
Wow.
says, this is a mental health issue. And it's like, yes, doctor, this is a mental health issue, but mental health is a part of health. So
Right.
if we have a child who's not sleeping, there's something going on physically. Like
Right.
physically, the child is now
Right,
suffering
exactly.
without sleep.
Not mentally, it's physical, right.
Physical.
For the
And if
baby.
the child won't stop crying, that's colic, or that's something related to that. And there's further assessment needed, right? Or the child is trying to communicate. So my advice to parents is to be in control. I think that's my whole thing. I like to tell people I talk in power dynamics. You are powerful. I believe we can manifest. That's in my book, Manifested Action Planner. I actually wrote that to be a treatment guide alongside treatment planning as a therapy, so that
Mhm.
people could realize how much power they have to make stuff happen for themselves. Your therapist
Yeah.
ain't doing it for you. So you ain't coming here every week and we doing it for you. You
Right.
come here every week to identify what you need to work on, so you go do it. Like we
You're
ain't gonna do
giving
it
you're
for you.
giving the tools.
Yes.
And when I give you the tools, that's where the power. Knowledge is only power if applied. Yeah. So you're giving, hey, I'm going to give you the tools, but you got to go do the work. And I believe oftentimes that's where the breakdown the kid comes in at is people. It's not that they don't know, they're not willing to apply what they know or do the work or to work it out so that they can get the results that they say they so desperately need. But because I don't know if it's even people taking the information that's shared from a counselor or shared from a therapist like yourself or a psychologist, psychiatrist serious enough to, I think it has to do with them wanting it enough.
Mhm.
I think you have to want it enough in order to really apply, sit in a session with you, you give them the tools, you give them the knowledge, and then they go out and execute.
I think that they want it, but they don't know what they want. They want peace. They want prosperity. They
Okay.
want health and love. Most people do, and connection to other people. They want to
Yes.
feel important, right?
Yes.
These are all very valid things to want in your life. However, when you ask the universe or you ask God for something, let's use God specifically, like if you are a prayerful, faithful person and that's who you call on in times of hardness and in times of need and in times of faith and joy, you
Right.
also have to call on that throughout always, because it's always in you. This is my belief. Like I
Right.
believe we are of that. So
Right.
if we always have access to it, act like it. That means you are
Exactly.
powerful.
It has to be a lifestyle.
It has to be a lifestyle. So if
Yeah.
you know every single thing that's in your life around you is because of you, that is so powerful, because you stop playing a victim in your own stuff, your healthcare. If your
Yeah.
doctor is treating you, oh, I hate my doctor.
Right. Change doctors. Right. Hello. Hello.
Hello, and it's not me like saying you're wrong. You're wrong. I
Right.
think they're not even aware that that's what they want, because they're just not thriving, they're surviving. So there's a very low level of thought happening when people repeat the same survivor habits. So I got to get up, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to sleep, I got to eat a little bit, something going to keep me going. But that's all I'm thinking about. You have to go to the next level above surviving. You have to go into
Right.
noticing yourself and what makes you thrive,
Yeah.
at least for short moments of time. And
Yeah.
I think that's what mental health care is. And I think a lot of people don't know what mental health care is, and they're just going to another therapist who might not have the same perspective I'm talking about. Because
Right.
I'm particularly talk about a perspective of people with trauma. People who ready and they go to therapy and they already know what they want to work on. There are people who I've seen for therapy, Black, white, Asian, whatever, who were ready. They had just
Right.
got out of something. They wanted a transition. They came in with the goal, Nakeya, I want you to help me. I think I want to become an entrepreneur. I chose you as my therapist because you do this empowerment coaching. I want to find my role into this. And you know what? We was doing it because guess who was ready? They was ready.
They were ready.
Art,
That's good.
go
Yeah,
you.
and
Go
very
do
good point.
it.
That's what it comes down to when that person is ready.
When that person is ready. But if you are in trauma, how do you get ready? It's very difficult because trauma keeps you in the past. It keeps you
Right.
in the future. You
Keeps
always
you
worried
stuck.
about what's coming. Is that going to hurt me? Or let me
Right.
hold on to this thing I grabbed, because you have no faith that you could create anything else.
That's good. What advice would you give someone trying to help a family member with mental illness? And as you know, it can be very difficult dealing with someone who wants your help one day, and the next day, Nakeya, they are treating you as if you are the enemy. Help that individual who's caring for someone with whether it be mental or, like your dad, physical health challenges, understand the importance. Now I'm gonna put a twist on this, the importance of self-care, because what I have witnessed in 24 years of, well, 28 years of counseling is individuals who care for people who are, whether again, it's mental or physical health challenges, actually cause them to become sick. And in some cases, the caregiver dies before the person who has the challenge.
Yeah, I've had a few clients that are that exact story. And I've had children clients who lived in that home where the mom was caring for an elderly person who had a disability, like a dementia or a real physical disability, that they actually had to change them and things like that. So I've been that witness. Remember, I told you about me being the witness, and
Right.
it has really given me a larger perspective, because how could I ever had that experience myself at this point in time? I couldn't have, not in my current life. And so, but having heard those children and how it caused them suffering, and having heard from the parents, one of the clients was the mom, I'm always going to break it down to the power, right? So what is within your power in this situation? Are you a nurse? Are you a hospice worker? Is this what you have been trained to do? Your love has no bounds, right? Like, you can love them. It doesn't have to be killing yourself to show that love.
Right.
It can be using your personal power to not accept the resource that was provided. Keep researching, because there are programs for people out there. There is support out there. Yes, you might be underinsured, but there might be a program. That's what social workers are made for. I think that's why I'm a LCSW as opposed to a psychiatrist or a psychologist itself, because a social worker adds in the component of referrals and case
Right.
management
Right.
and
Right.
and
Help you
getting.
get the resources you need. Yeah.
Because how can somebody do the work of their therapeutic goal? Like, I want to decrease my anxiety in social situations. That's a therapeutic goal, right? I want to be able to have a direct conversation with somebody when I go to a party 3 times out of the 5 times I go. That's a therapeutic goal, and that's measurable.
Yes.
However, a social worker can have that and say, okay, you told me you were unhoused. Let me find you this referral. This is my partner. I'm going to refer you to this. And that's a part of the social worker's job, to do that, because we know that no matter how many times we tell them to go outside and socialize with somebody and come back and tell us how that was, if they don't got a house, they haven't showered, they probably haven't, baby, that's why they don't want to go do that. It's like
Right.
this holistic thing. You can't just treat the symptom without treating the cause. And the cause here
Right.
is the mind. The inability to get out of the trap of whatever happened in the past or whatever worry is keeping you in the future. So if you can get them here in this moment, and back to the question, your family, you're suffering, you're a caretaker. Come back to the present moment. What is the present moment for you first? You're first, because you can't remember in the airplane, they say, don't put that mask on
Mask
anybody else first.
Yeah.
Put it on yourself first, so that you can help others once you're safe.
Right.
What's the point of you being like, I just passed out. Like, oh, I helped everybody else, but I'm gone. That's what the caretaker is doing. So the caretaker has to first breathe and know
Right.
that they are not a mental health professional. They are not the nurse practitioner. They are not the elderly care. There's a whole department for elderly care. And
Good.
yes, you may make too much money to qualify for the programs. I hear that all the time. Do what you have to do still. If you could buy an iPhone, a computer, have internet, have TV, have
Come on.
whatever else you got, you could invest in taking care of yourself, meaning that you need to have a payment plan or a loan or some kind of program or something in place
Yes,
to help you with the care that is not your role.
that's good.
So what
That's
is your
good.
power to do? And work
That's
it through. Go to your own therapist and talk it through. Create a plan. It don't have
right.
to be overnight. That's the loveliness of you. If you're in control, you give your own timeline. When's your deadline? Give it to you.
That's good. That is so good. Closing thought. Speak to the person who knows they need help. They know they need to go see a therapist, but they won't. Whether it be pride, whether it be shame, whether it be a lack of trust in therapists, psychologists, Christian counselors, whatever. What would your word be to that person?
I say, I understand. I feel you. It's hard to trust. People can be horrible, but people can be amazing. And we need other people because you can't do anything alone by yourself in this world without it being much harder. So find your people, and your people might be your therapist and you never knew.
Mm.
Or, I will say I've been quite innovative in the way that I've moved forward with the way that I treat the community. So I always tell my team, because I'm the primary clinical director, and then there's other clinicians who work under me. And I've told them that I've moved on from having individual clients, and my client is now my community. And I've aimed, my client is LA, Los Angeles County, like every county within LA
Right.
County. You are now Nakeya Fields client if you rolling through Innovative Wellness Consulting, Black Mental Health Task Force, or Therapeutic Play Foundation, because I'm the clinical lead. I'm the one looking at all the intakes. I'm the one seeing if we can take the client. Can we work with them? Can we refer them to this?
Mm.
I'm creating MOU agreements with partners. So I have an MOU agreement with Department of Mental Health, with Department of Public Health, with Planned Parenthood, with a lot of schools, with CalAIM, Department of Healthcare Services. We are now enhanced care management providers, which
Awesome.
means we can bill Medi-Cal and be the case managers. So what that means is if we get a client who we know needs mental health care, but they're not ready, we could just be case managers and get them the resources until they're ready.
Awesome.
That's what we need to do. And that's what CalAIM is. So that's a state initiative. And you know what I have to tell you, Anthony? Nobody's enrolling in it.
Wow.
So I think ECM has like a very low enrollment rate, but all these organizations are now ECM providers, but the community doesn't know what it is. So what Therapeutic Play Foundation has done is we do food banks, we do village wellness days, we do art sessions at the parks. We do all these things, and that's our outreach, and that's how we tell people about ECM. And usually if we're at a table and we're playing with people, they trust us. And then they're like, well, my daughter had this, this, and this. And we're like, well, we have this program and it's free. And then we're enrolling more people. We're actually like one of the people who are moving that program forward.
Awesome.
And I think we're one of only the Black-led organizations that are ECM providers. And I'm doing the work of trying to train other CBOs of how to become a CalAIM ECM provider so they could do this too. And then
Right.
we'll have more trusted partners. Because what has to happen is we have to have more organizations like ours,
Right.
and yours. So like your
Yes.
church can partner with my organization.
Yes.
The food bank we have is at St. Bridget Church in LA. So if we have more food banks, that's where most of our homeless people are coming through. We have pregnant women coming through wanting food. We're looking at them. Are you being taken care of? Are you getting prenatal care? And they're like, no. So we're signing them up right there for Medi-Cal and for things. So when we partner together and we provide the safe space, the sky's the limit, because it doesn't look like therapy now. That's therapeutic to get that
Right.
help.
Right. Right.
It
It's
don't have to be
community.
a room. Yeah, it's
Yeah. It's
community.
community. It's community.
Community and safety. Community
I
and
love
safety
it.
together. You
I
can't just
love
have
it.
community and then use the community. Like, oh, I'm gonna give y'all incentive cards, but I'm gonna take your picture and sell everything about you and then never find you again. That's inappropriate.
Right.
And people know about that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right. I love
So
it.
if you don't have a plan in place to keep people in your community, then don't try it. That's what I
That's
say.
good. Well, I'm excited, Nakeya. We are definitely going to partner. Good news for everybody that is listening, watching the podcast. Again, whatever platform you are receiving this podcast on, there will be information in this platform for you to contact Nakeya, as well as we are doing a work with youth, developing elite leaders of tomorrow, kids 13 to 19, first year of college, with, again, teaching them life skills and exposing them to different corporations and, again, preparing them for college, just so many things, entrepreneurship. So one of the components is dealing with mental health care. And so I want to make sure that we partner so that we can help those individuals, those families, with receiving those resources and tools as we come across those kids and families who need that support. So I know that I'll make sure that we get that information so that we, again, in our partnership, as well as just for people to contact you. I love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much. Hey, before we close out, what's next for Nakeya?
Well, next week I will be flying out to Asia. I am hosting an art and wellness retreat for people who want to empower their best lives. That's coming, I believe, in March 2025. So I'm going to do a site visit to see which locations I'm going to be using for the retreat. So it's going to be pottery and yoga and really a lot of like lifestyle planning. So this is obviously for somebody who's ready, right? Like I'm ready. Like I'm at this point in my life where I don't know. And so that's what the book is about, Manifested Action Planner. It goes alongside the retreat. So it's a book that essentially helps somebody manifest their best lives. And you don't have to be in therapy. You just have to be ready. So I say I stay ready. I don't have to get ready because I stay ready. But if you're out there need to get ready or you're almost ready, come look at me. Come check me out. I'm the Feel Well Coach on most social media platforms. And I'm on LinkedIn. If you look up Nakeya Fields, I do a lot of advocacy work and I care so much about all this. And please reach out if you want to partner, because that's what this is about. We need to talk to each other and work together.
Awesome. I love it. Listen, you heard it right here on the ABU podcast with Miss Nakeya Fields. To be able to care for the people you love, you must first take care of yourself. It's like the advice we're given on airplanes, as Nakeya alluded to. Put on your own oxygen mask before trying to help someone else with theirs. Taking care of yourself is a valid goal on its own, and it helps support you. It helps you support the people you love. But if you don't love yourself first, how can you love someone else properly? So again, as I always say, there's a better you and there's a better me, there's a better us, and there's a better world. Thank you for being with me today, Ms. Nakeya Fields. Until the next time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to a Better You program with Anthony McFarland. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.